Golden Cage, The Confessions of a Reptilian. You think you've discovered the glitches in the system. You catch moments containing clear messages from movie scenes, from music videos, and you think you've exposed us. But tell me, have you ever wondered, sir, against whom are you making this exposure? You make so much noise, so uncontrollably, that you begin to see yourself as a savior and become an open target. I am always one step ahead of you, because you are a human who has failed to become a system, while I am the very system you live within. Do not worry, my business is not with you, but with the grandchildren to be born from you, because we designed and implemented our business with you before you were even born. I can almost hear you asking, since when has it been this way? Ever since we placed Lilith before Adam. I know you are laughing behind me with a cynical expression. Smile, of course. It is your most natural right, because you think the leaders you vote for, the socio-economic life you live, the music you listen to, and those snack foods you love are your own choices. Let me explain it all. It all began with that first spark you call civilization. In the dusty lands of Mesopotamia, we introduced ourselves to you as gods. Back then, there was no need for us to hide. Our majesty was enough to make you kneel. By injecting our bloodlines into local kings and the theological class, we sanctified the right to rule. Even today, why do you think the blood of certain families is called blue? We seated hybrids carrying our DNA upon thrones and struck you with your first great shackle, hierarchy. In the Middle Ages and thereafter, we changed strategy. Being visible was risky, so we hid behind symbols. From your architecture to your currency, from your religious icons to your state emblems, we left our signature everywhere. We polarized you through religions and ideologies. Divide and rule is our golden rule. While you fought the battle of heaven and hell, we held the strings of both sides. Every drop of blood spilled, from the Crusades to sectarian wars, was a feast for our low-frequency food source, negative energy. Let us return to the beginning of the 1900s. With the Industrial Revolution, we transitioned you from physical slavery to debt slavery. The establishment of the Federal Reserve in 1913 was our checkmate move. We loaned you money that had no backing and demanded interest in return. By drowning countries in debt, we seized their resources. Every single commodity in the world moves with our permission. While you struggled to make ends meet, we used the global financial system like an energy harvesting machine. Inflation was our method of silently stealing your labor. It always granted us the right to move and the gift of time. Focus well here. He who controls money controls time. He who controls time writes the future of humanity. Immediately after, 1 year later, the First World War began. The date was July 28, 1914. We needed to find a reason for the existential fates of states that would or would not survive into the 21st century. This was the first step. The year was 1929. We made you live through the Great Depression. Markets collapsed. Everyone except the chosen ones went hungry. But crises are not disasters for us. Crises are opportunities for restructuring. September 1st, 1939. The Second World War began. Our plans, ongoing since past centuries, were working flawlessly. We brought certain leaders onto the stage. You believed and followed them. You even died and killed for them. Our political map design, which began with the First World War, reached its final form. Years later, for the process you would call the Cold War, we needed two great actors, the theory of duality. It was not difficult to appoint them. Two actors who would never stop racing, first in space, then in continental hegemony. You are still living through its effects. We get along very well with one of these two actors. The other is more systematic and conservative. He is aware of his current position and is still making our job difficult. The year is 1944, Bretton Woods. The dollar became the global reserve currency. Now, an internal matter of a country was a global matter. In 1945, Richard Nixon removed the gold standard. On that day, money was completely severed from a physical equivalent. Now, the thing you valued consisted of nothing but a belief you were blindly attached to, and we were the ones managing that belief. In the Cold War, you thought ideologies fought, capitalism and communism. But we discovered this. Fear was the most efficient management tool. Instead of being brave against fear, you preferred to be afraid of fear. We even constructed the concept of God, the owner of the great singularity, upon this fear. Falling in love with God would have raised your collective consciousness and frequency. Therefore, we ensured that you feared God. When there is fear, there are larger defense budgets, more security laws are passed, and there is less questioning. We diversified your fears. First existence, then hunger, then money, then health, then power, and your personal and so-called social interests. A mass and collective awakening of consciousness was the most rational way to enable you to establish a permanent and secure system. We did everything in our power to prevent you from discovering this path. The 80s and 90s, to keep the rapidly rising world population under control, we needed to build a sustainable world. You were a race that loved consumption, and we could not deprive you of that. Through industrial moves, we tested your inclination for a heavy working pace. You worked without looking at the clock, and with the money you earned, you could buy what you produced. Rural life and the offerings of nature no longer satisfied you. Now we had a more modern and insidious weapon, popular culture. By equipping the music industry with frequencies hostile to your collective awakening, we accustomed your brains to restlessness. Through the silver screen, we presented the truth to you in the guise of science fiction, so that when someone stood up and told the truth, you would label them insane. In other words, we played the game by the rules. The figures we turned into stars were our frequency transmitters. They performed rituals before your eyes, but you thought it was art and entertainment. By keeping you constantly in the lower chakras, such as lust, fear, and anger, we prevented your spiritual awakening. In 2001, the time had come for the first move of the Great Transformation. A time interval was chosen with a very precise design. It had to be right on the eve of the transition from analog life to digital life, to turn questionings of identity and existence into a defense of identity and existence, and to convince you that hatred, color, language, and religion were decisive obstacles. We had to gather everyone's reaction against a global uprising. On that day, the towers fell, but on that same day, the gates of the surveillance age opened. To the question, would you give up some of your freedom for security? You said yes. But the greatest revolution was not finance, not war. It was perception management. After the 2000s, technology companies rose. Now you were not the product, your perceptions were. Algorithms measured your fears, your desires, your anger. It was more profitable to divide you, not for you to unite. First countries, then continents became more easily accessible for you. Through moves in white goods, automobiles, food, and health, we tested your appetites in a short time. We saw that we were never wrong. The system we designed had begun to make its slaves happy. Access between countries and even continents had to be faster and much lower in cost. We designed social media for this. Social media is not a communication tool. It is a behavioral steering laboratory. In this environment, we noticed something. Players were needed for the designed social media. Many of you were caught in the magic of becoming known in seconds. This magic enveloped everyone. For the passive part of the increasing human population, those remaining outside the ones included in the system, the discovery that would fill time and transform communication from a tool into a goal was provided spontaneously. Now everyone was famous, everyone was renowned, everyone was influential. Music, rebellion was sold, freedom was branded. Anti-system sentiment became the system's most profitable product. You were like victims who had fallen in love with their executioners. The system you felt anger toward, cursed, and wanted to escape from was actually feeding you in the background. As the chosen elites gained power, they fell captive to an irresistible lust. We allowed them to perform rites and rituals in an isolated region to satisfy their irresistible lusts. This has actually always happened from the past to the present. You became aware of what was happening through the more frequent use of media and communication tools in recent years. There was no leak from the inside. This was not a design flaw either. It was a conscious advertising campaign specifically for you to realize the power in our hands. In the periods when you began to fear God, we placed the concept of sacrifice into your systems of thought and belief. We convinced you that when God was angry or when you were to make a wish of him, you could persuade him with a sacrifice. Think of Prophet Abraham's test with his son Ishmael. God had asked you to sacrifice the nafs, ego, within you, but this was difficult for you. We used this request, which endangered our sovereignty over you, once again as a weapon against you. For you, the easiest ones to sacrifice were the weakest and most defenseless. You did not hesitate to sacrifice the weak and placed it at the foundation of the belief system we imposed on you. We sought sacrifices for the chosen ones to whet their lust, the most innocent, most defenseless, and weakest among you. We fed on their fears, we fed on their blood, we fed on their hormones. We could not meet the demands of the chosen elites for longer life through the means of modern medicine. We needed the divine effects of the mother's womb, the magical and mysterious environment of creation that can never be copied. We found what we needed in your babies and children. We stationed them all on an island. The powers of authority of the guests hosted here began to help change the rules of the games we played on Earth as we wished. Indeed, we were managing humanity with a handful of groups. Money flow, precious metals, art, politics, the business world, the sports industry, war technologies, unsolved assassinations, social designs. The duties of many elites whom you believed in and trusted blindly and wholeheartedly were organized here. We had a very simple method: cameras, electronic mails, camera recordings, and the existence of living eyewitnesses became our strongest trump cards. One day, you will be truly surprised by what you see, but this will change nothing. In short, our advertising campaign is progressing successfully toward its goal. In brief, we did not chain you. We occupied you with your fears. In ancient years, your spiritual values and your devotion to the main source were very impressive. God consciousness, even in different cultures, was like the branches of the same tree, extending in different directions. There was a different fruit on every branch, a different taste in every fruit, and different emotions in every taste. When we could not pass to the stage of full hegemony with controllable human populations, we decided to hit you with your supreme weapon, your emotions. When you began to notice your ancient teachings a few years ago, the first threat to the system manifested itself. Groups that were awakening became a danger to the system we were managing, while a voice we could not hear was rising, interrupting your deep sleep. We had to put a stop to it. Your biological bodies thus became our trump card. We put the fear card in our hand back into play. Your families, your children, your mothers and fathers. Fear was the way to remind you once again of an impulse that would face anything to protect them. This fear should have no culture, no language, and no color. Then we took a weapon from the early 20th century off the dusty shelves and pointed it at you. In a short time, with news coming from the Far East, we noticed that your fear threshold had dropped. First a virus, and then we injected specially designed liquids, which you thought were the antidote, into your blood. While you were confined to your homes, following developments far from nature itself, the sound of the wind and fresh air, we had to find a more effective lullaby quickly. And we had found it. You loved this new toy of yours, artificial intelligence. Controlling you biologically is no longer enough. We wanted you to be connected to a digital network. Smartphones, social media algorithms, and artificial intelligence. You have heard how you came to these days. Would you like to hear what will happen next? Let me tell you that too. We admit we had exhausted you. States, companies, individuals, everyone will want the same thing: faster, cheaper, more work with fewer people. Life had to be easy. You will think that you are gaining speed with artificial intelligence and reaching that space age you have dreamed of for years. No one will notice, but human labor will gradually begin to slide out of the system. At first, there will be no mass layoffs. Something more dangerous will happen. Before people lose their jobs, they will lose the meaning of their jobs. As a result, depression, aimlessness, and feelings of worthlessness will explode, and people will begin to escape. As real life becomes harder, virtual life will become easier. AI friends, AI lovers, virtual marriage simulations. Ideal lives lived with VR glasses. Lonely people will take refuge in digital relationships, where they are not rejected or criticized. Real human relationships will begin to seem more complex, more troublesome. Empathy will weaken. People will connect not to each other, but to algorithms. As artificial intelligence technology enters every area of life, your taboos, which you think are kept in hidden chests within you, will also dissolve. You will have AI-supported, hyper-realistic virtual partners, android robot sex workers, and emotional bond simulations. No one is getting hurt, you will say, but the invisible harm will be this. People will begin to see relationships, commitment, and responsibility as programmable experiences. We will have destroyed our most important obstacle standing before God consciousness, once again, through you. There will, of course, be a solution for your uncontrollably increasing population as well. Wars are very cliché now. We are deploying war anxiety as the last trump card of global power governments. Do not worry, a third world war will not break out. You are already in it. It will regress further with decreasing birth rates, loneliness, and virtual life. Starting a family will be expensive, unbearable, and unmanageable for most of you. A virtual partner, on the other hand, will be trouble-free, programmable, and understanding. The population will age, and the productive segment will shrink. To be clear, the vibration level of your planet is not very suitable for us at this stage. We are working for the vibration to be at even lower frequencies. This is our priority for full dominance. As the human population decreases, automation will increase. As automation increases, data centers will grow. At first, you will not be able to foresee this. Giant server farms will begin to consume as much electricity as your cities, and massive water resources will be used for cooling. In this way, drought will increase with climate change. Your farmers, whose numbers will already be decreasing, will have difficulty finding water for agriculture, and drinking water problems in cities will cause great headaches. In other words, while you are escaping from the physical world and are under the spell of the digital world, water will begin to run out in the real world. Accessible food prices will rise rapidly, crises will deepen in poor countries, and waves of uncontrolled angry migration will grow. Do you know what will happen in the end? We will corporatize all states that strengthen and pledge allegiance to us through our elite and chosen representatives who carry out our orders to the letter. These companies, which direct your lives on our behalf, will control information, redesign the economy, and the people who make up your population, which has regressed to the level we desire, will continue their lives in a controlled manner as the minority but chosen slaves of the new world, order in total surrender. We published all of what I have told you as a clear declaration in Georgia. As I said, we play the game by the rules. A few years ago, you blew up the stone tablets where we announced these declarations. It was a cheap attempt, but it was impressive. Do not immediately blame artificial intelligence. I will do all of this through you by managing your perceptions. The problem is not artificial intelligence. The problem is your desire for boundless convenience. Wherever uncontrolled power is in someone's hands, danger begins there. In other words, machines will not gain consciousness, humanity will lose its consciousness, and we will always be in the background. Now you are more curious about who we are, aren't you? Let me give you one last secret. We did nothing extra until reaching this point. We managed humans with humans. In fact, we are the shadow of that massive light within you. When the light strengthens, the shadow vanishes. And the light is your awakened consciousness. You are not actually sleeping because we are strong. We became strong because you chose to sleep. It is the unchanging rule of the game. Sleeping consciousnesses are like birds imprisoned in a golden cage in a fake paradise. Only those who choose to wake up flap their wings toward the truth. The sun will rise shortly, and I leave the decision to you: a golden cage or the infinite sky.